We've talked a lot on these episodes of this show about communication. That's the biggest theme that we've had of where things can improve, where things need to be focused on is communication in all different parts of the industry. And so that's very important, and obviously a topic that comes up a lot. So that's pretty cool that you just lightly touched on it there.
Yeah, it really is the biggest thing. Everything in construction is better done yesterday. And especially when it comes to the last 10% of a project. And that doesn't matter if it's actually the construction last 10% or the last 10% of coordination for engineering. Just for whatever reason, that last little bit is always the most challenging to get through. And the communication aspect of it and being responsive and the cards on the table and trying to get ahead of things, that's where the differentiation happens. So if we know as we're approaching those timelines, again, whether through construction administration, they're getting close to getting their final permit, or if it's through the last little bit of the engineering side, that's where we really know, hey, there's going to be some extra phone calls, meetings. This is where we need to buckle down and really be transparent on what's going on.
Okay. And then are there any other big challenges that you face as an engineering firm working in construction?
Sure. I mean, there's lots of challenges. I think another big challenge is the expectations to reduce cost as much as possible. And this helps with new technology, whether it be more efficient HVAC units, better building materials, just more efficient equipment in general. There's always ways that we can value engineer. I think that there's a very careful dance behind over engineering, and you can always tinker. You can always make something better. But as you continue to tinker and try to find a more either economical or streamlined solution, you're also spending time doing that. And time is money. And the more time that you spend doing that, it's less time that the doors are actually open. So that kind of ties back to the communication aspect of it is understanding what's the budget up front, both in terms of time and construction costs, and then how much of that on the back end do people want us to do, and how much of that do they want to pay us to do, right? Because that's not free either. And we're always going to pick the most economical solution up front. But again, with anything engineering, you can always continue to tinker. You can always refine. But at some point, good enough is good enough. But if you continue to spend time spinning wheels or reevaluating something that's already been evaluated, there are diminishing returns to a certain degree. So just having those expectations. But yeah, it is a big challenge to how do we make sure that something is not only reliable in the terms of something like an HVAC system. If an HVAC system fails in a strip center, in a clothing store, generally nobody's going to get hurt. They might be uncomfortable, but if your HVAC doesn't work properly, it's an inconvenience. Structurally, it becomes much more critical. So we're talking about factor of safety, just safety of human life in general. So the structural design becomes a little bit more of a dance when someone wants to, hey, can we reduce this from a 12-inch beam to a 10-inch beam? Maybe not. It's not as easy as, well, yeah, we can pull off a couple tons on the HVAC and you might have a couple warm days in late August, but otherwise you'll be fine. The structural engineering is sometimes a more challenging conversation when we look at too much value engineering.